4 pages. We're not going through this item. Crazy.
Test one.
You finally figured it out.
Pull it. Pull it off.
Hey Pat, how are you? I'm good. How was your weekend? You worked all weekend too? It's supposed to be a holiday weekend. Well, there you go. That's something. Anyone back at it on the 5th then?
Yeah. And the 6th.
Oh my God. You're gonna burn yourself out. So when is it you go? Are you still going to England this fall?
We don't know yet.
You don't know?
I keep prompting my wife. It's her 70th birthday, so she wants to go to.
We're actually doing. We're gonna do Ireland, England, and Scotland all in one shot. We try to get it all done.
A couple of weeks.
Well, no, I just want to get it done in one shot because I'll call that. Then we're done with our islands, right? Because I do think if you do Europe, you need like 3 weeks to do everything.
Yeah, you
So
pretty much.
I'll have to do that when I'm retired. But we're gonna knock out the islands.
Good for you.
Let's check it out.
They're all very nice, Jason.
Scotland, 6 o'clock.
Is it 6 o'clock on the dot? Okay. Is everybody ready? I'd like to call the Oglesby City Council meeting to order. A roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Here.
Cullinan.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Moyle. Here. Curran.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 4, public comment on agenda items only. Seeing there's none, we'll move on. Number 5, approve minutes from the June 23, 2025 regular session. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve the minutes.
All right,
Second.
roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. I'm not sure what the standard amount of time is you're supposed to wait if they'll get a motion, but I thought it was pretty close. I don't know. Number 6, approve bills presented for payment in the amount of $634,772.54. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications to the bills, can I get a motion for payment?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 7, approve payroll for July 3rd, 2025, the amount of $88,547.25. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications, can I get a motion to approve the payroll?
I motion we approve payroll for June 20th, 2025 in the amount of $88,547.25.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 8, placed on file ordinance number 1292-072-125, FY26 Appropriations ordinance. Okay, go around the room if anybody wants to have any comments on it, anything like that. Colin?
Yeah, so just looking at it, as far as numbers wise compared to kind of where we are last year. I believe it was when I was talking to Becky, if I can pull it up here, I think we were going to run about a deficit. I'm sorry. Let me flip to it. We have a change in fund balance for the general fund of about $300,000 to the negative. One of the things that is largely driving this is the expense of the capital expense for the wastewater treatment plant. That is about 11 million or so each year that's being pulled out. Sorry, it's very. I'll come back. Just come back to me. It's fine.
Okay.
Hillary.
I don't have anything to add.
McDermott?
I don't have anything to add at this time.
Aldridge?
Okay.
So the only thing I have on it, yeah, if you look at compared to last year, just looking at all the funds appropriated, last year was a little over 18 million. And this year is over 43 million. So when you see something like that, obviously the first thing you think is a big red flag. But if you find out what a lot of it is, I mean, you have approximately 26 million of that is the wastewater treatment plant fund. So we have to, you know, obviously debits, credits, you have to account for everything. In there, what Austin is talking about, I do have some concerns. Again, when you're looking at a $42 million amount of appropriations and funds, 307,000 is really not much off. But there are some things that I think we're gonna have to have some severe talks about. One, you know, the ambulance, the pool. I mean, these are some of these things that when you add those up together, they're over, you know, $300,000 in the negative. So there is some conversations we probably have to have, but I'm not saying that has to be this year specifically. So, Austin, did you want to speak again?
I think you summed it up.
I summed it up. Okay. Anybody have anything else on it? Now, this is just placing on file, and my understanding is, what is the end date that it has to be in its final form before we can approve it?
The next meeting.
You can actually change it at the meeting on the 21st if you
Oh,
want.
oh, I thought there was a-
After the hearing. There's flexibility in the statute that allows you to do that, but, you know.
Oh, I thought it had to
The
be on
numbers
final
aren't
form.
gonna change. I suggest we
Yeah.
try to get our ducks in a row before then.
There wasn't a thing of it, I thought there was something about a final date.
Well, we have to publish a hearing, and Becky has to have the form of the ordinance on file this Friday. And that publication is already set to run on Thursday, because we have to publish it 10 days before the hearing. The hearing will be at the beginning of the meeting back on the 21st, so for your agenda. But you can entertain changes to it, particularly after the hearing, if somebody wants to say something and you are inclined to make changes based upon those comments. You have the ability to change it on the 21st, but it has to be finalized at the 21st meeting.
Gotcha.
Because it's gotta be finalized within the first quarter of your fiscal year, and that ends, unless we hold a special meeting after the 21st. That'll be your last meeting for the quarter.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think we're just placing on file tonight. Can I get a motion to place it on file?
Make a motion to place on file ordinance for the appropriations.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Aldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 9, old business. A, ordinance number 1293-072125, which amends section 5.74.010 of the municipal code to allow for any games authorized by the Illinois Lottery Act or the Illinois Video Gaming Act. So this is something that we talked about last time a little bit. I know the video got cut on us, and so that way the public discussion probably didn't get out there, but I'll try to summarize real quickly. We don't have the means to control what establishments would get these other types of new machines that might be coming to Illinois. And apparently not every place that wants them will get them anyways. But we had something in our code that defined the word
Raffle.
raffle. that made it not legal for us. And we do know that there's other nearby cities that are going to be getting these, at least in some capacity. So the council at the time thought it best to modify the definition of the word, so that way at least Ogilvy is not excluded. That's pretty much the summary. If anybody else has anything to add to that?
I don't have anything.
Well, McDermott?
Nope.
Aldridge?
Nothing.
And by changing it to this wording, if those definitions of games change in the future and they're authorized by either one of those acts, you won't have to go back and change this again.
Okay.
You'll be home free.
All right.
All right, that's good.
Well, if there's no other discussion, can we get a motion to approve the ordinance?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance. Let's see.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Abstain.
Cullinan,
Aye.
McDermott,
Aye.
Moyle,
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. B, board vacancies. This was actually on the agenda last time. Unfortunately, we found out that the video didn't get captured, so I just want to point out, we did reappoint people to the Plan Commission Board. All of those wanted to come back. Some of the other boards, though, did not. So just so you know, that we are looking for people, one for zoning, one for park board, two for ambulance board, one for design and review, and one for the facade committee. So if you are interested in serving one of those boards, we'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to either reach out to myself or the clerk's office, and we'll get those names in front of the council, and we'll go from there. Anybody else have anything else on board vacancies? C, discuss short-term rentals, Curran. All right, so, last meeting, again, it wasn't published, but there was a talk. We had a gentleman, the one that we denied the opportunity to get his short-term rental because he was in a residential area. We ended that conversation with that the council would kind of talk and look at some options and stuff like that, and that's all this really is a discussion here. So I've reached out to the council, and there is a varying degree of opinions on the matter, but there is some wiggle room that people are interested to possibly adopting something similar to what other cities such as, I want to say, Boston, San Francisco, and I think even Chicago or something like that. What that means is in the residential, like zoned R1, you might have a limit of how many days that somebody could do that in a year. And there's various examples, whether it's 90, 30, 60. So I thought we'd just open up the conversation to see if that's something that's worth going into, because I'd hate for Mr. Bossa to put in an application again if we don't have anything to be able to tell him.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think I put together a list of suggestions, and I mean, you guys tell me what you think. But I think if it's not somebody's primary residence, so if they own it either as, even if they live in town, if it's a second home that of somebody who lives in town, or if it's a rental property of somebody who Mr. Bossa lives somewhere in the suburbs, I believe. My suggestion for it was no more than 30 days at the absolute max. Just because you take away one from kind of the character of the neighborhood when you have what is basically almost equivalent to I guess kind of a hotel in an R1 neighborhood. And not only that, but you're taking up a house that could be used for, maybe a young family who wants to move into town as well. So I would say 30 days at the absolute max for somebody's non-primary residence. If it's your primary residence, I think we can kind of bump that up perhaps because you're still living in it. You're still part of the community ultimately. But maybe you're going to England, or maybe you're going to Ireland, or maybe you're going to Scotland, right? And you say, I'm going for 2 months instead of 1 week or whatever. You're going to see all of it. In that case, I don't have an issue with allowing more days because, if it's Jason Curran, right? Jason Curran is still part of that neighborhood part. It's not basically equivalent to a hotel. I think if it's a hosted Airbnb, meaning the owner of the property is living on the premises, I don't have an issue with that being an unlimited number of days, really, because that person they're still living there. It's still their primary residence. And they're still a part of their community, but, they're having somebody stay with them, however many days a year. I don't really know if there has to be a cap on that. The interesting question is, let's say, Jason has a spare bedroom, right, and he wants to rent that out. Well, that's one thing, but what if it's a guest house? Does that make it any different if you have a guest house in your backyard? Something to talk about. If it's in a mixed-use district like downtown Oglesby, I really don't see an issue with that being unlimited as well. I think if we really restrict the number of single-family homes that are allowed to be used for Airbnbs, that might incentivize developers to come in and put money into these downtown properties and ultimately rent them out. Don't know, but that'd be kind of my assumption. And then Jason and I talked about how would you prove this sort of thing. I just kind of broke it down to primary versus non-primary residents. So it'd be basically based off of whatever their driver's license says. And so, I don't know. Tell me what you think.
Lot to think about.
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan of the short-term rentals, and I wasn't part of the board when this got passed in the first place. I grew up here, I moved away, and it was a real struggle to find a home to come back to. Properties go really fast, and I would really break my heart to see some of these older homes in the older neighborhoods get picked up because someone has the intentions of putting a short-term rental in. For someone like me, I wouldn't want to pay the property taxes in the new subdivision, and I like the character of the old homes. I wouldn't have been able to afford it if it skyrockets the price. So the only place I would see that maybe I would have a little wiggle room is, again, like the downtown, the upstairs apartments there. And I'm okay to be on the losing side of this. Something I don't agree with.
Thank you. McDermott?
Well, myself, it doesn't matter how I personally feel about it. It's what's best for the city. But regardless, we need to be more precise on what constitutes as a denial for a petition and what approves it. I mean, he turned in a application and we denied it. For what reason? I mean, I understand the lady's concern, but we have to be precise as to what reasoning we give. We're denying you because of this. We approved it. Now you did this, so now we're taking it from you. I don't think we should just say, well, you get it, you don't. Guy down the road, no. Up a little bit, yeah, I like him. You can't do that, okay? That just doesn't make sense to me at all. That's basically what I feel about it.
Okay. Aldridge?
Yeah, Commissioner Cullinan brought up a few points here, suggestions, I suppose you said. It's not primary residence, second home. He wanted to limit the days. He believed it took away from the character of the neighborhood. He also believed it takes away the opportunity for families. Some of the examples, I guess you said, were from Boston, New York, and Chicago. Do you
Larger
have
cities.
anything that's more relatable to the city of Oglesby?
As far as around here, I think I know our ordinance was, I guess, we looked at Peru, or we looked at some surrounding towns, and I really don't know as far as days if any of those towns, because I wasn't part of that, I don't know if any of these towns restrict the number of days. But if you do go on Airbnb, you'll basically see, around here, we're pretty much the only town that doesn't have listings. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But, at the same time, though, too, like I said, I don't know what day limits
So,
those other towns have.
Fair to say you don't have an example then?
No, I don't have an example of a local town.
All right. Much due diligence went into drafting this proposal and this ordinance, actually. And I believe we thought long and hard about some of the situations that could arise from this. I believe we addressed as much as we possibly could. And I do also believe at that time I stated that if, in fact, there were a problem that we encountered, we would be able to address it instantly here. Within hours, because we have such a small town and a council. So I believe that we should let this run its course and see. There's nothing that prevents us from coming back to here and addressing any situation that we encounter, nothing. So I don't think there should be any restrictions on anybody's properties like that unless we encounter something that would warrant that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, as you can tell, there's varied opinions on this, and there is no wrong opinion. The funny thing is, listening to every single person here speak, every single point I agree with, actually, right? And that's a fantastic point that I don't know of vacant homes that exist in this city that go very long. They get chewed up pretty quickly because people want to live here. So that's that is a super strong point that I don't know if it was brought up in the past when we were discussing this whole ordinance. That is a super strong point because we'd rather have people that are residents more so than transients. I get that. To Baldridge's point though, I think the original, and we asked some really hard questions. Like, ask the question, like, if we authorize somebody in the next year, we thought for whatever reason we didn't want to, we didn't even have to give a reason. It was completely at our sole discretion to say, no more. And if they even have a single violation on any single item, we could shut them down immediately. So both options exist. So I think in the spirit of trying to get something passed, because we might have a split council, I kind of want to lean towards the idea of if it's any district other than R1, it's completely open as is. If it's a residential area, I don't think that's a bad thing to limit the amount of days that somebody could use it as a short-term rental, because that does a couple things. It really prevents it, especially if you went as low as 30, which is almost too low. But if you went as low as like 30, you are really stopping that property from being an income earner. Nobody's doing that to be an income earner. You could probably even go higher than that, but I'd be in the spirit of authorizing something like that if it's in the spirit of trying to find a way that we can get passed.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think I agree with you that if you're doing it for 30 days, it's not an income earner. You're not going to buy the property under the idea, well, I'm gonna make money off of this. But maybe somebody does have a second home in Oglesby, right? And they pay property taxes, whatever. But they spend some time here throughout the year. You can give them 30 days as kind of a, just a way for them to recoup some of the costs, which I think is what Mr. Bassa was asking for. I don't have an issue with that, but like I said, and Rich, I'm sorry, I forgot what you were going to say before I I forgot what I was going to say to you before I kind of pushed it to Jason. There was something that you said that I wanted to respond to. But all I'll say is I frankly don't even like the idea of Airbnbs whatsoever, but under no circumstances. And I totally get what Rich is saying. I mean, there was time, effort, money put into drafting the ordinance as it is, and I totally agree with what Mac is saying, and I feel bad for Mr. Bassa that his application was rejected because he did everything, crossed all of his T's, dotted all of his I's, but I can't under any circumstances vote to allow another short-term rental in town, or any short-term rental in town. I voted against the first two with the ordinance written as it's currently written. I think it does a disservice to people who, especially like Hillary was saying, young families who want to actually invest in this community, be part of this community, work in this community. So.
Well, let's talk where we do find common ground at then, because I respect those opinions. I really do, and I recognize that you guys weren't on the council when this did get approved, and so now you guys are laden with the responsibility of being part of approving it. I get that. With the idea of trying to get something approved, do you see that there's still value in the idea? Like, let's talk about the downtown district, right? Downtown district, it's a business area, there's apartment things upstairs. Do you see that there's value there in allowing people to come into town to be here for like a week or so at a time?
I have no issues with the downtown.
Okay. All right, and that, similar to that, okay, so we're in agreement on that side of the house then. So really what we're talking about is residential, R1.
Well, and then, yeah, R1, and then also kind of the other thing I brought up, hosted short-term rentals is, what do people think about the owner just renting out a spare bedroom to somebody through Airbnb? I mean, are you guys fine with that?
I believe, like Mr. Boss has said, you're coming up with hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
I think you, unless you can list some examples that you've encountered in your life, I don't know where you're coming up with these hypotheticals. I don't think we should address your hypotheticals at this time. I think we need to let this run its course. We're looking for tourism in this city, and I think we're hampering our ability to get any tourism if we're not going to allow
Well,
this new way here.
I get that, but I also think if you, like I said, if we snapped our fingers and all of a sudden we had an insane amount of tourism, and which again is a hypothetical, but we're looking for tourism and we want that hypothetical to become reality. If that becomes reality, then you're going to have a bunch of people buying these houses and renting them out, and ultimately you're going to drive up the cost of housing in town to a point where people who live in town can't afford it. So, I think it's really an issue all over, and I don't necessarily know. Like I said, I can't. I admittedly don't have knowledge as to if Peru or Ottawa or Utica or whatever have day restrictions. I don't. But it's become a big enough issue in large cities, which have a significantly larger amount of housing available than we do, where they've put caps on the number of days that you can rent these properties out. So I think if it's an issue in the larger cities, I could see it being an issue here too if the tourism ramped up enough.
I do have a question. So
Sure.
we voted last time. Austin and I voted nay. You guys also voted nay. Do you guys have a change of heart without adjusting the ordinance? Could we put it up for another vote? Obviously not tonight since it's not on the agenda. But in the future, you were part of this. You feel confident in the way the ordinance is written. Do you feel like if we were to put it up again, there wouldn't need to be a modification and it would pass?
I believe one thing we're not looking at is the possibility of a family coming to the community. You stay at the Holiday Inn or something, there's 2 beds in there and a couch. You have a family with 4 kids, what do? You put your kids in another room, and the way times are today, it's pretty scary. You put them in a house where you have multiple bedrooms, you can lock the doors and become more secure, more safe. And I think that's what a lot of these are. I get what people are thinking instantly with the Airbnb, that there's a huge party, there's half barrels in the yards and people are going crazy. I don't think we're gonna encounter that, and we've made provisions in case we do counter that. So I think we need to look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, I think with, I mean, just the read I did over the ordinance as passed, I really don't think that there's going to be issues. I think it's pretty tight as far as monitoring and policing and imposing those expectations. But again, my primary issue with this isn't, that I'm worried that somebody's going to be throwing a rager in my neighbor's backyard. My issue is just more the constriction of the housing supply. And also, like I said, character of the neighborhoods as well, because I think it's one of the other things that we kind of have to consider too. And I kind of hate the whole argument about character of neighborhoods, but because ultimately that kind of sometimes results in some, especially in larger cities, housing not being built, which also drives up the cost of housing by constricting the supply. But I mean, the character is something to consider. I mean, would you? I don't know. People of Oglesby, us up here, this short-term rental isn't next door to us, but let's say it came next door to you, right? And the property next door to you is being used as an Airbnb year-round, with no restriction on the number of days it can be rented out. Would you like that? I mean, I personally wouldn't, but it's a matter of preference. But we also had people here who do live next to Mr. Boss's property who were upset about the prospect of it becoming an Airbnb. So I think that's something to consider as well. I mean, obviously, it's kind of an abstraction, it's a hypothetical, but once it becomes a reality, then maybe you say, no, I'm not sure I like that.
Well, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with Rich. If you got a family of 5 kids, you're gonna rent 2 or 3 rooms in a hotel, you know.
Yeah.
But the one thing we gotta do is we gotta make sure that we're not. It's gotta be legitimate reason as far as why
I agree
you're
with you.
rejecting them. And actually, people coming up and saying, "What if my property value?" It hasn't happened. We can't say, well, people come in, they got a family, they're throwing a party. We have the option to boot them out,
Sure.
stop that place from happening. But you got to have it legit. You got to keep your personal out of it. Okay, I understand.
I don't know if anybody's putting their
given.
personal in it. I think that's a legitimate opinion that you have
Yeah,
about
it
that.
is. But
But again, I do think there's value in allowing it to some degree. What Rich was saying, though, we have the control over this, and
We have
I'd be,
control,
if
yeah.
somebody next door to me came in and it was a wild something,
you're going to call the police.
that would upset me, right?
Right.
But if it's a family that comes in and they do their thing and it brings great people to the neighborhood, I really don't think that's an issue. But, like you said, if we open this up carte blanche and we become a touristy town, is that going to create a situation to where now there's 30 or 40 or 50 of these things?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case because we have the capability to approve or not approve. And we can always, if that starts to become the case, we could either restrict them or not allow them to happen anymore too. So, and what you mentioned was, which is funny because it sounds like you're against it, but you're saying throw it back up for a vote
Well,
to see if you
it
got
seems
enough votes to
like-
pass.
It's a good idea.
It seems like they maybe have a change of heart over there, and
Okay.
I mean, and I don't know the reasons that they denied it last time, but
Well, we can always do that. If nobody feels like they want to modify, I have no problem making a modification if it makes people feel a little more secure. But don't forget, at the end of the day, we have the control over that if we think it's being abused or not.
Well, I would love to make a modification to it because I agree with Mac. Well, I want to preface that. I don't want to say I love the idea of making a modification to it because I don't like revisiting things that have been recently discussed, but we do have 2 new members here who have issues with it. But I would be open to revisiting it, or I would like to revisit it, just because of the fact of what Mac is saying. I don't want the ordinance to say one thing, somebody like Mr. Bassa to check all the boxes, and me feel like I'm forced to say, you know what, you did check all the boxes, but no, sorry. Like, I think that's unfair. I do, admittedly. But it's the way the ordinance is written that I have an objection to. And like I said, I wasn't here when it was first written. So I'm open to amending it. I don't, depends on what the rest of the council thinks. I think Hillary's probably more against it. They're more for it. So I don't really know if the middle ground's going to be feasible. It might just have to come up for another vote.
So there's 3 options we can do here. Option 1, we do absolutely nothing. It stays denied. We don't modify anything. Option 2, it goes back up for a vote. If it gets approved 3 to 2, then it's approved and we continue to watch it and monitor it. Or we could go through the process of trying to make a modification to where, everything stays the same except for if there's a residential 1 zoning area, then there's a limit on days, whether that's 30, 60, 90, whatever it is. Those are essentially our probably, what I'm hearing is our 3 best options. What are people leaning towards?
Let me ask something. Hillary, are you afraid that we'd give out too many of them and nobody would?
no,
be
I
able
would
to buy
rather
it?
have a family come in with kids who are permanent residents than having someone who just is visiting. I live in a neighborhood that there's not a lot of little kids running around anymore. I would love for my kids to be able to go across the street and play.
I agree with that, but like, as Rich said though,
Yeah.
in the scenario that he gave, I think there's room for a community to have something like that too. Now, you're right. Do I want to have 50 of those scenarios happening every night inside the city? No. But if that is what's happening on the weekends, that 1 or 2 families are coming to our area because of that, I think that's perfectly fine. I really
Maybe
do.
that's opening the door, that they're seeing what it's like and, hey, we want to move in. Let's try to find a place. That'll work too.
Maybe. So, again, those, I don't think that changes the three options. What are people leaning towards? It sounds like we're leaning towards either number 2 or number 3, either approving it or making a modification. Thoughts?
I'm open to making a modification is what I will say.
All right, we got one for modification.
But I'm dead set against voting to approve any short-term rentals,
Period,
period,
unless there's a modification.
unless there's a modification.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. No change?
No.
So really it lays with you guys.
Number 2.
Make, was that, I can't remember, I forgot what number 2 was. That modification, straight out
I
approved?
think we've already spent
Go
enough
up
time
for
on
a
this.
vote.
Done it.
I think
What
we
was
need
that?
to see what
Go up
happens.
for a vote.
Go for a vote? Okay, we'll put it on the next agenda then and go from there. Okay. Anybody else have anything on that before we move on? I know it was a big open topic.
Nope.
All right. Number 10, new business. Place on file purchase of a Vactron at a cost of $126,488.63. McDermott.
Okay. There seems to be some confusion on whether or not this will actually work for everybody in the city. So I'm looking to possibly table this for right now.
Okay. Do we want to talk a little bit about it now openly, what the concern is, or?
Well, we can if you like. The main concern is there's question on whether or not it'll do the job we actually need it to do as far as the streets and the water department. I guess it will do some of it, but it's not gonna do all of it. The
Do you wanna give-
capacity,
Do you want to give a background of what it's looking to solve for you? Or do you-
Well-
I can do that if you'd like.
well, it's been there for years. You absolutely do know.
So, okay, what this is talking about is, so we looked at a while ago having a vac truck. For those that don't know, when you have a break or there's some kind of issue that's below the ground, you can only get so far deep with a backhoe, right? Otherwise, you're gonna damage infrastructure. So when you get close enough to it, use this vac truck. What it does is it shoots water, it cycles through, and it get to your equipment and everything on underground without damaging the existing infrastructure. We use it quite a bit. Unfortunately, we pay a service to come in to do it, and it's quite expensive. I remember many years ago, we looked at doing this. I think at the time, it was about $500,000 to get a new vac truck. My understanding that this is a somewhere in between. We're looking at something that you pull behind.
$126,488.63.
But then the question is if it's going to actually fulfill our needs to the best of our ability. So that's the
all
background
the
on it.
departments, rather
And
than
you're
just
asking,
a
you'd like to
few.
take a little more time to look into it, is kind of what
Yeah.
you're looking at?
Maybe we can try to see if we can rent it or see if we can get a used one or something. Maybe a vac truck or something.
We'll go around the room if anybody else has any other comments on it.
I don't know enough about the piece of equipment it is to really say anything on it, but I think it's a really significant cost for the city to incur,
Yeah,
and so
yes.
I would like a cheaper solution.
Okay.
What are the costs that we usually typically contract the service out?
2023, it's $325,297. We also did the hydrants that year. 2024 was $138,735. So far in 2025, $61,842, which comes out to
Yep.
$525,000
We've
since
already paid for
2023.
a couple of
And
them.
the
3 years.
new vac is around roughly 500 and some odd $1,000. So, being the costs, we'd be ahead right now. Like, we would be starting to gain from that by having a brand new vac truck,
Sure.
so.
Right.
If it solves our issue.
What's the lifespan on a back truck?
I don't
I mean,
know.
you get one, it's not gonna, it lasts 10, 15 years, I
Well, that's
assume.
what-
Assume like
it's
anything else,
truck.
that's how you take care of it.
Yeah.
My understanding was that they're relatively maintenance heavy, because there's a lot of hydraulics, a lot of hoses, a lot of things like that. So it wasn't, it's $500,000. I'm maybe getting some mixed information that it's very complicated to run. You need somebody that's specifically trained for it or not. I know at one point in time, we wanted to look into the idea of sharing one between LaSalle, Peru, and us, and that kind of fell through. So
Well, I do know, like right now, you can use a remote. It's like, you got these kids with these video games. You're laughing, but it's like that now, that you got a remote control and you're standing outside the hole. You're not even,
So like
not bad at all.
for example, when we have a water break, and you can correct me if the prices are different now,
fine.
but depending on how bad the water break is, and that could be $10,000 to $15,000 at a
That
shop
one-
that they
that
come
night.
to do that. Is that relatively accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
big ones that last, that we chase or something.
Okay. So big ones, yeah. So you're saying like a small one might be 4,000, but the big ones that my mind is thinking of is like the $10,000-15,000 ones,
Yeah.
right?
10 is low for a big one.
So in an effort to save some time here, could we possibly place this out for bid? Have companies come to us instead of trying to find things like we did here where
Yeah,
it's probably not sufficient.
we could try that.
Put something out for an RFP,
All right.
something
We'll
like
do
that. You wanna look into?
Let's try that.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Anybody
Rich.
else have anything else on the topic?
Thanks.
That's fine.
In that case, you wanna table it for now?
Yeah, I'd like to table.
Can we do something to go out for bid, or how's that work?
Well, usually you need to put a bid proposal together and things like that.
How do we get that motion?
So let's take one at a time, Rich. So
Okay,
Mac, you're gonna
first
make a
we're gonna-
motion to table
We're
this
gonna,
for now?
we're gonna make a motion to table this, and then we're gonna make a motion to put it on bid, okay? So for first part, I'll make a motion that we table the purchase of a Vactron at the cost of $126,488.63.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, let's get that one done. Roll call?
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
And Curran.
Aye.
Now,
I'd like to do an RFP.
I'd like to make a motion that we put out for bid to try to find one. Or-
I think that's fair.
I'll second.
Roll call,
Thank
please.
you.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. B, discuss summer events lineup, Curran. So, after Fun Fest was over, one of the things is we kind of lost one of our events, which was the summer days car craze. It's kind of being taken care of now, where it's being mixed with, it's really two events. I think it's being, there's a, what is it, We Are Oglesby is doing something that's a combined event, basically.
We Are Oglesby is gonna host a car show before Boots Brews and Barbecue, so
So in other words, we used to have another event, a separate event day. Now it looks like that event is rolling into it. So it's really now just one event day. So the reason I want to bring it up is so the event ladies, they came up with numerous suggestions, and I just wanted to kind of poll the council of what they kind of thought about some of these here. I sent them the email, granted it was earlier today, but we have it here of some of the suggestions, and I marked on things I thought that were good, things that weren't so great, and maybe some different ideas. So I just wanted to kind of run through those real quick and then see if anybody had any comments on them. Because again, I heard that we're doing other events in other parts, and I just want to make sure that the council has buy-in on any events that we create inside the city. One here is Kids Back to School Beach Party. I think we've done something like that before in the past. There's a Taste of, I won't read all the details of all these things. Taste of Oglesby, local kids talent show, old-fashioned ice cream social, board game night. My recommendation was if that's something that we could move to the Dickinson House. Craft hobby night, book club, another one I thought motivate to the Dickinson House. Themed bake sale, mini golf, the bubble guy, yoga. There might actually be something with the Dickinson House doing something like that right now currently. Chili cook-off, the Parade of Pumpkins at City Hall. I wonder if we should add that to Harvest Fest. Disc golf event at Lehigh. Cookies Dinosaur exhibit. Chain food truck for the day. Fashion show, Fiesta night. Legos, another thing I thought might be good for the Dickinson House. Science experiment lab, partnering with Karis maybe. Karaoke party. Sidewalk chalk drawing contest downtown. Pet parade. Dodgeball tournament. I think that brings a challenge for doing that outside, can be done. Business pop-up event, and shrimp boil and Jimmy Buffett night. And then the other one I added was, if we wanted to add another liquor event at Seneca Square, such as beer tasting with breweries. So those are all the things that the ladies came up with ideas. I didn't know if anybody had any input or recommendation on any of them. Have anything?
I don't really have any input or recommendation on them. I really don't know what people like, but I would say as far as like crafts or hobby stuff is concerned, I know the library does do some things like that, so I wouldn't want to step on any toes of any organizations that, any other organizations in town that are already doing some of these things, but most of them look relatively like new ideas. I just do think that something we need to utilize that Seneca Square space because it is very, very, very underutilized. So, whatever gets it utilized, I'm for it.
Okay.
Do we have an idea of, like, on Summer Fun Fest, if we profited, or was there any financials given on that? How do we?
I think those bills are still coming in.
Those bills are still coming in, probably, I don't know if I'll have it. It should be ready for the first meeting in August for sure.
Okay.
It takes a while for some of these bills to roll in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I
unfortunately.
was just trying to see, like, putting another event out there, is it really worth it? Are we getting the return on it?
So in the past, Fun Fest usually be the one that we actually made money at and stuff like that, and it helped fund some of the other ones that we don't make as much money at throughout the year and stuff like that. That's kind of been the general concept of how we've done things in the past. McDermott?
Well, they all sound pretty good. We'll have to see how it goes, I guess.
Okay. Aldridge?
I'd just like to thank We Are Osley for picking up the car show as well as picking up the winter parade day. They're gonna host
Absolutely.
businesses and stuff during the day. I also have a concern with the Summer Fun Fest costs this year. I think we need to see what the budget was there, how much we went over the budget, what the return on our investment was, and I think we need to see those before we go making up other events.
Okay. So I'm hearing, maybe wait till we see what our numbers were for that to see how many items we might want to take on. Austin, I will agree with you that I do like the idea that it's underutilized, and I would love to find ways to create more events that create a life of their own. Like We Are Oglesby has done a great job with the parade. Now they're doing the car show event, stuff like that. They're already doing movies in the park. They're doing a great job with that. I wouldn't mind finding other ways to motivate either them or even other organizations that would want to take on events. So that way, the idea is, I remember somebody tried to compare us to Streeter once a while ago, but Streeter, they have an organization that comes in and does a lot of those events for them. So I'd like to get to the point to where we can be fueling it,
Sure.
but getting these organizations to continue to run events in our downtown area for us.
I think, to quote Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And ultimately, if you ultimately start an event that's, you know, worth its weight in salt, you'll probably get other people, organizations, businesses that want to contribute something to it to help it run, or maybe they'll take on running it themselves. So I think it's worthwhile to explore more programming because they're, like I said, that space is criminally underutilized.
Do you think tying it to like kind of the revenue stream that came from Fun Fest is an important part of that decision making, or independent of it?
I don't really know if it has to turn a profit as long as it's not incurring a significant loss. We do a lot of things, or we just put $60,000 into the pool, which I think was a worthwhile investment because it's an amenity.
Lasts more than one night.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's an amenity, and it's something. It provides something for the community. So, I mean, we can talk numbers, but I don't necessarily think these events have to turn a profit for us to host them.
Okay. Well, how about this in the meantime? I kind of agree with that it doesn't have to turn a profit for
It'd be
Fun
nice
Fest.
it'd be nice,
it
yeah,
helps.
obviously, if everything did, but.
But there's at least two people that want to look into that, so how about we'll have our event coordinators take a look at these, try to see if they can come up with what they think some cost might be with it. And then hopefully if we have all the details of Fun Fest next meeting, we can maybe come up with a list of what we want to pursue. Should that sound something?
I think Commissioner Cullen had mentioned something about getting things off and something worth the weight in salt and such. Perhaps giving some of that money to some of these organizations that you guys are speaking about to help with these not organizing the events that we already have. I feel that there's a lot of times they're pretty much left to be on their own, and the city really isn't helping out a lot. So if we do have that money and we're willing to invest it, let's help out in some of those events.
I'll give you an example of one of those. If you remember, this is maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, I think it was the food pantry that came because they wanted a donation from us directly. And one of the things that we talked about was, I'd rather not, we technically legally can't give them taxpayer dollars directly to them. But what we can do is if they were to host like some kind of special fundraising event or something like that, I have no problem finding ways that we can help fund that event, because now we're bringing people into town to do something, so there's an economic return on that for the city, and then they can still, that's why these nonprofits are fantastic, especially if they can pair it with a way that they wanna make money with it. The city benefits because of economic, I think that's how we can best help some of those organizations.
Joint venture of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Becky, we'll have the ladies see if they can maybe put some prices and maybe some possible times with this, and then we can talk about it in a future meeting. Anybody else have anything else on that at all? Okay. That being said, we're down to number 11, public comment on any topic. Quiet night, wow, okay. Number 12, commissioner reports. Commissioner Cullinan.
I do not have anything to report tonight.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Moyle.
All right, I'm just gonna give a quick update on what's been going on in the emergency services during June. The police had 423 business checks, 70 vacation checks, 124 park checks, 130 traffic stops with 106 warnings, and 19 case reports. The fire department had 31 total calls, 6 mutual aid responses, 2 activated alarms, 2 brush fires, 3 rescues, 4 accidents, 8 standbys at local area events and fireworks shows, 3 medical assists, 1 odor investigation, and 1 fuel spill. The ambulance, I didn't give much detail on what they did during Summer Fun Fest, but they had responded to 7 separate incidents. Many of them were related to heat. But throughout the rest of June, they had 3 intercepts, 2 mutual aid, 1 mutual aid request due to multiple calls at the same time, and 3 transfers. So
Any update on anything for, as far as fireworks or anything like that? No
everybody's
issues?
still got their fingers, as
That's-
far as I know.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Big fire.
Commissioner McDermott.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I want to thank people for turning in that sidewalks or concerns with streets. Please go ahead and give them to me. I'll let the street department know so we can get those resolved. Just a reminder, I guess we're going to put the Vactron out for bid. If anybody's got any ideas about that, I'd appreciate it. And that's basically all I have.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Rich.
Commissioner Baldridge.
Nothing tonight.
All right. Number 13, Mayor's Report. Mine's relatively short as well. The only thing I have as an add-on is talking about the trash with the public services. I did get a chance to talk to the new guy that's the head of the organization here for our region. I really have nothing new to put out compared to what was put out on Facebook already, as far as there's still gonna be some limitations with recycling and lawn bags until it's resolved. But I did get one other piece of information. They, believe it or not, they are still picking up that extra item, and I did test it on last Thursday. So they are still picking up the extra item, and all regular trash should be on time. So hopefully they will get through their negotiations quickly, and we won't be impacted very much longer, hopefully. The second thing is, just want to congratulate 2 teams. The Major League Girls, they're a combined team for LaSalle, Peru, Oglesby. I think it's just actually LaSalle and Oglesby. They are at state right now, and they're at their semifinals game tonight. And also, the Junior League boys are playing for district champ tonight. So big news for Oglesby teams here. Hopefully they'll continue to advance and do great things. Good luck to them all. And that is all I have. Number 14, executive session to discuss collective negotiation matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning the salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, 5 ILCS 120/2C2. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, 5 ILCS 120/2C1. That is all I have. Can I get into, can I get a motion to go executive session?
Motion to go to executive session.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. And the only active item we have after executive session is if we are going to or not draft the attorney for, have the attorney draft an ambulance wage ordinance. No active items though. We're back in open session. Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Here.
Cullinan.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Moyle.
Here.
Curran.
Here. Number 15, direct attorney to draft the ambulance wage ordinance. We're looking to draft a wage ordinance for a full-time position in the ambulance department. I guess I should start with you. Do you have any questions on it?
Oh, nope, we're just gonna follow up with the paperwork.
Okay, Mac?
Go for it.
Baldridge?
No.
Nothing.
Clint? Okay, in that case, it's pretty simple, straightforward. We can get a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
No, we need a motion to,
No, you don't.
No.
wait, I thought we agreed we had to do
No.
that.
No. Well, you agreed, but you directed me there to do
Okay,
so.
well, the public don't know
I
about
feel
it.
Second.
Motion
If you feel
to
good about it.
adjourn.
All right, number 16, adjournment. Can we get a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll
Thanks,
call,
Rich.
please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Cullinan.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Moyle.
I
Curran.
Aye, we are adjourned. What is this? Somebody,
I'm sorry, Jason.